What's going on, guys? Farzin Vasugan here with you on a Wednesday. The Chiefs Zone podcast back again. Hope you're all having a great week, having a great day. We are halfway through the week. Yes, we are getting closer and closer to Championship Sunday. Hope you're all excited. Going to touch on the AFC Championship game a little bit today and also talk about some of the news that came out of Arrowhead and also the injury report that came out for both teams, as today was the first day of practice for both teams, day one of the install, as they say. And there's some interesting takeaways today. Obviously, given the magnitude of the game this week, there's a lot more media that comes with the week leading up to Championship Sunday. So I'm going to react to some of the comments from players and coaches today. A lot of things to go over here. By the way, special guest on this episode, Chiefs Hall of Famer Deron Cherry will join me on the podcast tonight. Very excited to have Deron on. We had him for the first time last year. Have a good relationship with his team, his foundation, and everything they've got going on. They've been great to us, and we've always had a good connection since we've started this thing. So great to have Deron back on, and he's got a lot of good things going on. He has some dates that he wants to promote for his foundation that I think you guys will find interesting. So we'll talk about all of that with Deron later on, and also pick his brain on the AFC Championship game and get a prediction out of him. So all of that on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I want to let you guys know that this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for any of my ticketing needs, whether it's sports, concerts, whatever it may be. That is where I go to. And if you're a new customer, you can use my promo code FARZINE at SeatGeek.com to save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, and whether it's the AFC Championship game, whether it's the Super Bowl, those tickets are pretty expensive, or whatever else it may be, concerts, any other sporting event, that is where I go. You should go there as well. SeatGeek.com. New customers can put in my promo code FARZINE and save $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. I see a lot of you guys here in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Caitlin, to answer your question, by the way, you're asking if Humphrey, I think you meant Humphreys, did they have him at left tackle? No, he was not on the team at the time. So this is going to be kind of an interesting approach for Sunday's game. In fact, this is going to be a much different football game than before. I've always said every game's a different game, and there are so many reasons as to why every game will be different. And big reason why is both teams have a lot of players that did not play the last time these two teams played in week 11. From the Chiefs side of things, you have Harrison Butker, who was not playing. That was, if I'm not mistaken, Spencer Schrader's first game with the Chiefs. They didn't play many games with the Chiefs, but I believe that was his first one. And then you had, on the offensive side, Isaiah Pacheco was on IR, Hollywood Brown was on IR. On the defensive side, Charles Omenihu and Jalen Watson were both on IR at the time. DeAndre Hopkins was on the team, but at the time, he had very little knowledge of the playbook. So there were a lot of things different about the Chiefs at the time. And of course, to address the question earlier about the offensive line, that has changed a lot as well. Specifically the left side. It was Wanye Morris and Joe Tooney at tackle and guard respectively, and now it's shifted. At least we expect it's going to be Tooney at left tackle and Caliendo at guard. We'll see about that. There's a lot to take away from today with the media availability and whatnot. Andy Reid spoke to the media today, and he announced that the Chiefs are going to have all of their players practicing. That is all of their players on the 53-man roster. And I think that needs to be clarified because I got a lot of questions in the comments. Oh, does that mean Rashee Rice practice? No. I'd love to sit here and say yes, but that is not the case. He is on IR. He is not expected to come back even if the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, Andy Reid did say today. So today was the final day of McCole Hardman's 21-day window. So for those who are on injured reserve, you can open up a 21-day window, meaning that those who are on injured reserve have an opportunity to practice during those 21 days. You can get a feel for the players, see where they're at, and if you feel like they're ready to come back, you have 21 days to do so. Some teams only need 3 days. The Chiefs usually try to let it go on for at least a week or two before reactivating a player. That's how they handled Charles Omenihu and Isaiah Pacheco when they returned to the Chiefs. But as far as Mecole Hardman goes, he had his 21-day window. He practiced last week. He was limited in practice every day, but did practice nonetheless. Today was his last day for the 21-day window. Unfortunately, Andy Reid did say that Mecole Hardman is going to remain on IR, and therefore, if you activate a 21-day window and you don't promote the player from IR to the 53-man roster, that does mean, if I'm not mistaken, that does indicate essentially the way it works is they're not allowed to come back for the remainder of the season. So unfortunately for Mecole Hardman, who was essentially the hero last year in the Super Bowl with what he did, coming away with that game-winning touchdown grab on the corn dog play, the Tom and Jerry play, his season is over. So there will not be any Mecole Hardman magic this season in the playoffs. So who do you go to? Kind of a weird pattern with wide receivers, by the way, because 2 years ago, you traded for Kadarius Toney, and what does he do? He has the biggest punt return touchdown in Super Bowl history, and he also had one of the touchdowns on the corn dog play. The other one went to Sky Moore. And then a year later, last year, almost a year ago this time, you had Mecole Hardman, who came back from the New York Jets back to Kansas City. And what happens with him? He catches the game-winning reception in overtime to beat the San Francisco 49ers. So a lot of people are wondering, could DeAndre Hopkins maybe slide into that role where he has a big moment or a big play in the Super Bowl to follow that trend of wide receivers that get traded to Kansas City and make a big play in the Super Bowl? We'll see about that. Speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, I think that's a nice little transition here to talk about him. This is his first ever AFC Championship game, as is the case with Hollywood Brown and Kareem Hunt. And obviously the rookies, of course, but just to emphasize the veterans here, DeAndre Hopkins will play in his first ever AFC Championship game. This is a guy who is obviously a future Hall of Famer, no question about it. The guy's done so many great things in his career wherever he's gone. He's just never had an opportunity to play in a Super Bowl or in an AFC Championship game. In fact, the last time he played in a playoff game prior to the Houston Texans game was when he was a member of the Houston Texans, and that was the 24-0 deficit that Kansas City faced. Justin Reed was also on the Texans at the time, and that was the last time Hopkins played in a playoff game. Arizona was in a playoff game when Hopkins was there, but he was injured and did not play in that one, if I remember correctly. So it's been a while for Hopkins, and obviously didn't have a catch in that game. Nor did Hollywood Brown. Brown was targeted twice. Hopkins was targeted once. That's kind of a big deal to me. Obviously, it didn't matter for the Chiefs, but I don't think that was the game plan at all going into it. I think Kansas City, in a way, was surprised that Travis Kelce was open so much when Travis Kelce was just left open by Houston's defense, which, by the way, Houston has a great defense. So I think that was a huge surprise that they let the guy who owns the NFL postseason record for receptions and 100-yard games, receiving games, was constantly left open over and over and over again. So the fact that the Texans just allowed that, well, no problem. I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs just went with that availability instead, and there wasn't a lot of pressure on Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. That's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row in the playoffs. It's just not. Listen, I'm not going to put it past Andy Reid to create something that allows Kelce to get open, but that much, I don't know about. I do remember a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs were getting ready to play the Eagles during the week leading up to the Super Bowl. Kelce was asked, how do you always get wide open? And his response was, Andy Reid, baby. So Andy Reid's always going to try to come up with something. And look, I mean, that defense is no pushover defense for Buffalo. They've certainly played well this year. And they've had their issues as well at times, like against the Rams when the Rams put up 44 and got the win. And that played a big part in Kansas City having that nice little gap in the conference and allowing the Chiefs to lock up the 1 seed with a week to spare in the regular season. So I think when you look at Kansas City, offensively speaking, Their only wide receiver who caught a pass last week was Xavier Worthy, the rookie from Texas. And it's not, you're not going to win by just having that, unless, they decide to leave Kelsey wide open like the way the Texans did. But that is, I'm not really giving that much thought of happening. I'm just not. The way I see it, I think this offense is going to have to get a lot of guys involved. It's going to be all hands on deck. Listen, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills. This is essentially the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl, because obviously, two great AFC teams or two great NFC. I mean, you guys don't need me to teach you this. They can't ever play in a Super Bowl, but it just feels like if this was designed like the NCAA tournament, where it's possible to play a conference rival, or in this case, a division rival, in a championship game. Yeah. This feels like it just has Super Bowl vibes because of how great the Buffalo Bills have been this season, especially Josh Allen and the MVP type of season he's had. It's probably not going to go to him. It's likely going to go to Lamar Jackson. But he's just had a great year, regardless who wins the MVP. And you look at the Chiefs, I know they don't have an MVP candidate this year, but they found a way to win 15 games, get the number 1 seed, and a team that's chasing history, essentially, to win 3 in a row. And not only does Hopkins have a chance to earn himself a Super Bowl appearance and his first Super Bowl ring, but also contribute to the team in getting their first three-peat. And it starts this Sunday. And I think when you just look at the Chiefs, you got to get DeAndre Hopkins involved. Absolutely have got to get him involved. He played 16 snaps last week. Juju Smith-Schuster played 17. And that was just a little bit of a surprise there, because if you told me that DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown were going to have no receptions last week, I mean, listen, again, that Texans defense is very good. And I know they just decided to leave Kelsey wide open. But if you told me that going into the game, I don't know if I would have felt very confident. I would have been nervous about a potential upset. But that's not how it all went down. Kansas City was able to get through by not having to complete a pass to Hopkins and Hollywood. But against Buffalo's defense, where, and look, I have my score prediction, and I'll share it tomorrow. I'll ask Deron for his score prediction. I'm curious to know what he thinks, but I just wonder at the end of the day, this could be a shootout. I won't rule out the possibility of a low-scoring game. I mean, I don't think the odds of that are very high. But if you're asking me, the range as to what the score could be, man, this could be similar to the Rams and Bills game earlier this year, where both teams scored in the 40s. I know the Chiefs don't allow that many points, but look, I'm just kind of thinking, both teams, they're going to do whatever it takes to win this game. If the Chiefs put up 30, well, Buffalo's going to try to put up 31. If Buffalo puts up 35, the Chiefs are going to try to put up 36. Chiefs put up 40, which they haven't done in forever. Well, Buffalo's going to try to put up 42 or 45. This is going to be one of those games where both teams will do whatever it takes. Again, I do have a score prediction, and I will drop that tomorrow on the podcast, which, by the way, the podcast will be 8 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. We'll break down the game. I'll give you my score prediction, so make sure you guys have that. And the Red Friday live chat, we'll probably go back to our normal time, either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock Central Time. So make sure you guys join me for both of those. The Red Friday live chat, for those of you who are new, it's essentially like a Q&A. You guys ask me a question or comment, whatever's on your mind, and I'll answer that in the Red Friday live chat. But for right now, I'm just looking at the Chiefs. And yeah, by the way, if you guys have score predictions, I'd love to know what you guys think. Your scores will not impact what I think, but I'd love to know what you guys think the score will be for Sunday's game. And I'll shout a few of them out here as I'm going along here. I just feel like when you look at the Chiefs, and again, just because you get everyone involved doesn't mean you put up a lot of points. We know the Chiefs don't do that, but they'll do enough to win you a football game. You gotta get everyone involved. Hollywood's got to get involved. Hopkins has got to get involved. Kelsey's got to continue to do his thing. It'd be a little more ideal to get Noah Gray more involved. I think he only had one catch against the Texans last week. You certainly want more of that in the AFC Championship game because that certainly will help your odds of winning and advancing to your third straight Super Bowl. That's what it's all about. And yeah, Noah Gray had 3 catches. I must have completely blanked out on the other 2. But 4 different players caught a pass for the Chiefs. Kelsey obviously had his 7. Worthy had 5. Gray had 3. Kareem Hunt had 1. Like I said, Hopkins and Hollywood combined for 3 targets. Samaje Perine was targeted, as was Juju Smith-Schuster and Isaiah Pacheco on the first offensive play of the game for the Chiefs. Couple of drops there. The one with Hollywood, just a good defensive play there where the defender broke that up and prevented Hollywood from being able to control the ball all the way through. Let's see here. What score predictions are we seeing? 24-10, 27-20, 31-21, 27-24, 30-17, 30-28, 31-28. Okay. Some people thinking the Chiefs will surpass the 30 plus point mark for the first time this year. Okay. Yeah. So it seems like a lot of people think it's going to be in the 20s range. A few people think we'll see the 3 up there. Okay. I see you guys. With your predictions here. I'll give you guys mine tomorrow. I just feel like at the end of the day, you got to get all of the guys on offense involved, and that also includes Kareem Hunt. Let's talk about Kareem Hunt for a moment here. And I alluded to this already, but I want to dive into this a little more. I know Chiefs fans don't want to bring up the past and what happened. You guys all know what happened in 2018 when it was Patrick Mahomes' first year, and they're getting ready for the final 6 game stretch, and Kareem Hunt was kicked off the team when the video surfaced. Kareem Hunt, since then, he served that suspension. Was put on the commissioner's exempt list first, then served the suspension, joined the Cleveland Browns, made his debut with them, did pretty well with them, and also played a hand in the Browns winning their first playoff game in forever. But at the end of the day, Kareem Hunt, this is his first AFC championship game. This is his first AFC championship. In fact, last week's game between the Texans and the Chiefs, that was Kareem Hunt's first playoff game playing alongside Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was on the team in 2017, of course, but he did not play in that playoff game. He was on the sidelines the whole time. He only played in 1 game his rookie season. So just to kind of look at Kareem Hunt, and to go back to what I mentioned when he got let go and he's been brought back. And obviously the circumstances certainly changed where they felt like they really needed him. They did the work to make sure he had done the work, did their due diligence, making sure he deserves a second chance, and they certainly believed he did, and that's why they brought him back. Kareem Hunt missed out on 3 Super Bowls. So I think, and listen, I still remember when he got pulled over for weed, which is not that big of a deal. But the police officer, was being cordial with him and said, "Hey, I know who you are. I know what you've been through." And you hear it in his voice when the same week the Chiefs were getting ready to play the 49ers, not the most recent one, the one before, Super Bowl 54, Kareem Hunt was telling the officer, he's like, "Man, I should be in the Super Bowl right now." And he's not wrong. Well, guess what? He got a second chance with the Chiefs. And yeah, Kayaha, you stole my thunder there. He is hungry. Feed Kareem Hunt in this game. Listen, I feel bad for any Buffalo Bills defender that tries to stand in Kareem Hunt's way. Because I think when you're Kareem Hunt, you see that Bills defender, you think about what happened that got you cut from the team before, you stiff arm that guy. You stiff arm, you see that mistake in front of you, you just stiff arm that, and you go through. This is like a moment where Kareem Hunt will run through a brick wall if he has to, type of moment for him. He missed out on 3 Super Bowl wins with the Chiefs. And possibly more. And I see the comment, David, if they don't cut him, well, he was on the commissioner's exempt list already, which is essentially a suspension. So he would not have been available for that game. And look, Damian Williams, he scored 3 touchdowns in that game. So I don't think the running back was ever the issue in that game anyway. Maybe Kareem Hunt made a difference in that game. I don't know. We'll never know. But Kareem Hunt's going to be hungry in this one. He's going to be playing with a lot of fire here. And look, let's just be upfront and honest here. He's 29 years old. which we know in today's NFL, that's not a great thing at the running back position. This might be his last chance at a Super Bowl. We don't know. We never know what tomorrow or next year even brings. So I just think at the end of the day, you're going to see a Kareem Hunt that we haven't seen before. And it worries me a little bit because, yeah, sure, he'll probably be very emotional thinking about the fact that he's going to have a chance at a Super Bowl. So don't let the emotions get to you too much. And look, I think having Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid on your side will certainly help you through all of that. But think about that for a moment here with Kareem Hunt. He did what he did. Put in the work to try to be better about all of that. And the Chiefs certainly bought into that. Look, I was one of those people that said he would never come back. And I know there were a lot of Chiefs fans over the years that felt hopeful about it. And there were a lot of Chiefs fans who would say, let it go. It's not happening. I was one of them. This is why you never say never, man. It's kind of like professional wrestling. And I know a lot of Chiefs haters out there love to bring in the professional wrestling comparisons with the NFL now. But remember, look at Bret Hart and how he was like, for those who don't know, Bret Hart, essentially, the script said that he was supposed to win a match. WWE kind of screwed him over and he did not know about it. That led to a lot of anger and frustration, and he exited the WWE. CM Punk literally went to court with WWE, and now he's back with the company. It's just, at the end of the day, you never know what second chances you could get. And I think Kareem Hunt's looking at this game as his ultimate second chance right here. So this is going to be a very special moment for Kareem Hunt if the Chiefs come away with the win, and I think they will. But Kareem Hunt's got to be a guy that you need in this one here. And again, like X's and O's, that's important. We'll get into that. But again, mental fortitude here, folks. Like, I think that's going to play a big role. And I talked about that same thing with Kareem Hunt when he was drafted in 2017 in the third round. Look, whether players want to admit it or not, they listen to what's out there. Travis Kelce kind of admitted to that recently in an interview with Pat McAfee, calling out Rex Ryan of all people. But, when the players are getting ready for the draft, I mean, listen, you want to know what's being said about you. You kind of want to know realistically what your pick range will be. So whenever these players hear that they're not going to be first or second round picks because they're too small or too slow or not strong enough, whatever it is, those players hear it and they want to use that as motivation. And I think Kareem Hunt, when he fell in the draft the way he did into the third round, I think he used that as motivation. And remember his NFL debut, the guy destroyed the Patriots. Best debut in NFL history in terms of total yardage for a rookie in his first NFL game. So, for him to come back and what he's done this year, providing that big jolt for the Chiefs offense, he hasn't thrived necessarily statistically, but he's done enough to help the Chiefs get through in a lot of their games. So I think when you look at Kareem Hunt, you need the short yardage situations from him. And here's another thing I'm thinking about here. I said this last week with Sean McDermott. When the Bills had the ball before the QB kneels, or not the QB kneels, but running out the clock, essentially. What did the Bills do when they were at the 1 or the 2 yard line? Rather than going for it on fourth down, which they could have easily done a QB sneak, a tush push, whatever the name of that is now, they decided to kick the field goal. And I get the logic behind that, because if you make it an 8-point game, well, you can't lose the lead in that time. Unless, there's enough time left and you commit a turnover, which the Bills didn't. The Bills essentially played it safe and went for the field goal to make it an 8-point game. I am telling you right now, if there is any situation where the Bills could make it an 8-point game or make it a 2-possession game and it's 4th and goal at the 2 or the 1, Sean McDermott, there is no chance in hell he's going for the field goal. You're on the road at Arrowhead. You got to create a gap. So if they're ever in that situation, mark my words, and it doesn't have to be, an opportunity to go up by 2 possessions, just in that situation on the field. And someone said it in the comments. A couple of you guys have actually been saying it. More 7s and 3s, and I think John even said no 3 and outs. Oh, you're talking about 3 and outs in the red zone specifically. Yes. Listen, here's my thing. I think both teams are looking at the other, and they're saying field goals are not going to do it. You got to get touchdowns. not field goals. Man, I struggle with that one. Let me give you two examples. Remember when the Chiefs played the Bengals several years ago in that AFC Championship, the bad one? What could have been the difference maker before halftime when the Chiefs tried to get the ball to Tyreek Hill on a really bad play, and that led to them being stuffed before halftime and didn't have the timeout to stop the clock and go get a field goal? Well, if the Chiefs got a field goal in that one, they win that game. Do they not? Because that would have been out of. Listen, if they were to kick a field goal, maybe Cincinnati approaches that game differently. Here's another example: the game where Travis Kelce went off on that Thursday night football game against the Chargers. Remember that one? And I cannot. Who was the head coach of the Chargers? I can't remember his name. Not Anthony Lynn. Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley is who it was. Brandon Staley was uber aggressive in that one, where he was constantly going for it on fourth down and missed out on a couple of field goals. If they were to kick those field goals, guess what? You probably don't have an overtime game. And the Chiefs won the coin toss and they scored a touchdown on that drive. So I'm just looking at the Chiefs right now, and I know Andy Reid tries to play it safe. If it's fourth and short, they will go for it. But would Andy Reid go for it on 4th and 3 in any situation here? I just think about that. I know Andy Reid's not the aggressive type like a Staley or a Dan Campbell or Dan Quinn. I just don't see that. But maybe if there was ever a time for that to happen, it'd be this game. I just think it could be this game here. David says you take the points, but you go for it 4th and 1 or 2. I don't disagree. I certainly think both coaches will do that unless they're like way in their own side of the field. I mean, the Bills, they're absolutely going to do the tush push. Everyone knows it's coming. And there's no stopping that kind of thing. There just isn't. There really isn't. And yeah, a couple of you guys have been mentioning the red zone. John, I know you mentioned the red zone. Josh, I think you mentioned the red zone as well. Yeah, the red zone's been an issue for Kansas City. You get that massive kick return from Nico Remigio, and you can't even get a freaking yard. I mean, the Chiefs ended up winning anyway, but you could have made it better on yourself. And I really hope there's been an emphasis about that in practice this week. I really do. I mean, I really hope they worked on a lot of play designs. I mean, listen, you want to run the corn dog play? Do it this time around. I don't think the Eagles are falling for it. The Eagles fell for it twice last year. Or not last year, but a couple years ago. I think the Eagles will be ready for every corn dog play. I don't think the Chiefs have done it against Buffalo. So if there was ever a time to bring back the corn dog playbook, it'd be this one here. And I know Mahomes mentioned there could be maybe a new variation of that. I think the only time they attempted that this year was against San Francisco. And that one was bad because I think Mahomes overthrew McCole Hardman or whoever he was trying to throw it to. Which, by the way, wouldn't that have been just a great spit in the face? Hey, you lost on a corn dog to McCole last year in the Super Bowl. Why don't we do it one more time to the same team? But no, it didn't happen. History did not repeat itself then. By the way, one big rant, and I want your guys' input on this one. Am I crazy? Listen, I know I try to be cautious of criticizing coaches of these kinds of things. But don't the Chiefs run that play with Xavier Worthy too much where they have the end around or the reverse? Don't they do it too much with him to the point where teams catch on? Teams study film just like Andy Reid does. I mean, Andy knows this, but they keep running that play with Worthy. And it creates these 2nd and long and 3rd and long situations that you don't need to be in. I just feel like they've kind of run that play to the ground Like, it's a lost cause at this point. I remember the Lions, they had a nice trick play on a Thursday night game. I can't remember who they were playing against. I think it was a division rival. Don't quote me on that. I think it might have been the Packers now that I think about it. But they did this thing where they would fake a toss, and I can't remember if it was Montgomery or Gibbs, and then they would hand the ball off to one of their wide receivers. Run that play. Yeah, okay, you guys are all agreeing with me on this, because I'm not seeing anyone talk about this one here. David says they run too many trick plays in the red zone. This is the thing with trick plays. If they don't work, everyone's calling out the head coach in that situation, calling it a bad play call. But if it works, everyone's going to praise the execution, and they're going to say the coaches have balls of steel, and it was great. It all worked out perfectly. So, trick play, it's a double-edged sword with trick plays. That's just kind of the way it all goes down. But I think at the end of the day, if you're Kansas City, play smart football here. Let me give you an example. Remember last time these two teams played in the playoffs? What did they do that was really out of character for the Chiefs? They ran. Pacheco was just running all over the Bills defense. But when they had the ball in the red zone, McCole Hardman, I think, got a jet sweep, and he fumbled. And then later on, I think this was after the fake punt failed by Buffalo, because they noticed Kansas City had 10 men on the field. Pacheco, on the first play of that drive, after the turnover on down, brought the ball all the way to like the 2 or the 3 yard line. And then they decide to do another play with Hardman, and he fumbles into the end zone. And it's like, man, you could have made it a 10-score game. You could have saved Tyler Bass the embarrassment of missing that field goal in the end there. But that's not how it went down. So Kiyaha says, I have a feeling that Xavier will have a 100-yard game. Oh, boy. If Xavier Worthy gets 100 receiving yards, and that plays a big factor into the outcome of this game, Buffalo is going to get crucified for trading that pick to Kansas City. I don't care how good Keon Coleman's been for them this year. If Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes go off in this game, it just feels like the NFL script. And let's be honest, people think it's scripted. It just feels like the script is somewhere out there where Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes could have a massive day and really make the Bills regret ever trading those picks in 2017 and 2024 to Kansas City. Wouldn't that be an outcome and a story? That would be insane. Other reactions from today's press conference here. We mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. Kareem Hunt spoke to the media. He said he's feeling pretty good. We've already touched on Kareem Hunt. Patrick Mahomes spoke to the media today, and he was asked about the officiating. He took ownership of the flop, which is nice. You don't see a lot of people do that. Josh Allen has certainly had his fair share of flops this year, but bring that same energy. He says, as far as the officiating help, quote unquote help, he says, I don't feel that way. I just try to play football. At the end of the day, the referees are doing their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they can. Listen, he's not wrong. I mean, officiating is a very difficult job. They're on the field the entire time. When the Chiefs score a touchdown, Mahomes, Kelsey, Hunt, Pacheco, all those guys, the offensive linemen, they go sit down on the bench. The referees don't go sitting on the bench. They're still on the field, and they're on their feet the entire time. If the Bills were to ever trade again, and I agree with you, Brandon Beane needs to be fired on the spot. But as far as and I lost my train of thought here. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, the officiating. I mean, look, I saw Aqib Talib, who, he's a Jayhawk, but he's also a Bronco at heart. He spoke out about all of this. I saw not Kyle Long, but who's the brother? I can't recall his name for the life of me right now. Chris Long, who was taken by the Rams several years ago, played for the Eagles and the Patriots. You have these all-pro and Pro Bowl defenders who are retired now, and they've looked back. They're like, look, those are going to get called. Even the slightest bit of contact. I remember the Chiefs played the Raiders one year, and I think it was 2015 or 2016. And I want to say it was Derek Johnson who went in trying to sack the quarterback. The ball got out, but you're still trying to get that quarterback hit in within the legal ramifications before it can be considered roughing the passer. But Derek Johnson, his hand just barely touched the helmet of Derek Carr. And that light touch is enough to be considered roughing the passer. It was the right call, but there were a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a bad call." No, it's not a bad call. It's the correct call. It's just a bad rule. The first one with Will Anderson, where he just barely grazed the bottom of that face mask, it's gonna get called. Now, if the referee had a better angle on that, I don't think he calls that. New York looked at it and they said, yeah, that was the right move. Listen, remember the Marcus Mariota forward progress? Remember that one from Derek Johnson where it should have been a forced fumble? The league said that was the correct call. Like, I don't believe that. Yeah, see, John says the refs are on the side of the Chiefs. Ask 74 about that. If the referees were really on Kansas City's side, would they have called the Kadarius Toney offside there? No, they would have picked up the flag and be like, oh yeah, we're on Kansas City's side. Let's let this super cool play happen. Like, come on, let's use our critical thinking skills here. This is not that difficult. I love the all the loops that people try to go to try to prove how this is rigged. Yet, Chiefs Texans was the highest viewed game in ESPN's NFL history. So people are still watching the games, even though they're convinced it's rigged. That is funny to me. And look, I mean, there's no question that premier players, they kind of get favoritism. Didn't Michael Jordan get away with some traveling calls here and there? Of course he did. I know there's a YouTube video out there that showed this once a long time ago, and it had like 1-star ratings. Remember back when YouTube had stars, not just instead of a thumbs down or a thumbs up, you could give it a 5-star rating or a 1-star rating, and it just had all the 1 stars because people did not like that Michael Jordan was getting called out. That's just the way it all works out at the end of the day. I don't agree with it, but that's the second one though. Yeah, that one I certainly thought that was a bad call. But that's listen, Chris Long said it best. Every team gets bad calls and favorable calls. It's only exacerbated in a big stage like the playoffs and a team like the Chiefs that's been a powerhouse team for a very long time now. That's kind of the way it all works out. People are only paying attention when it's the Chiefs. I mean, listen, all of the divisional round, we saw bad calls. And everyone wants to tie every bad call to the Chiefs. It's like, okay, not everything is related to Mahomes or the Chiefs. Like, let's slow it down a bit here. Can you criticize that bad call without bringing up the Chiefs? I mean, it's doable, but a lot of people don't want to do it. Real quickly, before we take a little break here and bring on Deron Cherry, I do want to mention the Jets have hired their head coach, Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. So the Lions have lost both offensive and defensive coordinators. Ben Johnson staying in the NFC North. That is interesting. And the Jets, they have taken the Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. The reason I'm making a big deal about this is because both Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo, they interviewed for the Jets head coaching job. I thought there was maybe a chance that Spags would take this job, even though the Jets are a dumpster fire. I think with the Jets, that is home for Spags. So, when you look at Spags, he's 65 years old, I believe. If he were to go there for 2 to 3 years, and if he was being paid handsomely, he would have taken that job, and maybe he would have retired after that and stayed in the Jersey area because that's home for him after all. But doesn't appear that he's going to be going there. So the only other place that could be a threat to take Spags from the Chiefs would be the Raiders. And look, I know the Raiders just hired their new general manager, but I'm just looking at the Raiders right now. Like, unless the Raiders are paying you a king's ransom, who's going to the Raiders? Seriously. And this is not me being a Chiefs fan trying to poke at the Raiders. No, not at all. This is me trying to have a serious conversation here. Who would hire? Who would in their mind go to the Raiders. Because ultimately, the way I see it, it's like, if you look at the Raiders, whoever they hire ends up getting fired within 3 years. Antonio Pierce didn't even get a second season. He was supposed to be the savior of that franchise. I saw it from all the Raiders. Oh, he's the savior. He's turning this team around. Max Crosby campaigned for him. Didn't even survive 365 days as the head coach of the Raiders. He was a one and done. And I don't agree with that unless you can guarantee you're bringing in someone better. Like when Romeo Crennel was let go after one season, they brought in Andy Reid. Obviously, that worked. It took a while for things to get rolling, but it worked. Kiaha, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. And if the Raiders are willing to pay a lot of money, sure, maybe a coach would want to go there. But I don't think Spags would go to the Raiders. Like, listen, everyone knows the Raiders. That is where coaches go to die. Okay, I'm sorry. That sounds harsh, but it's true. Like, name me a coach that went to be the head coach of the Raiders and then did great elsewhere. Like, who? Someone give me a name. I mean, Eric Bisaccia should have been their head coach, but they went elsewhere. Kind of surprising. Bisaccia is not a head coach now, but neither here nor there. You can see Robert Saleh from one bad East Coast team to an equally bad West Coast team. Oh, boy. David says Gruden. There is no way in hell Gruden's going back. Because if you recall, the Raiders, instead of firing Gruden, they forced him to resign, meaning that Gruden did not receive any more money from the Raiders. So if you resign, you don't get the rest of your contract. If you get fired, there's still the money they're going to be paying you. So Gruden's not going back. No chance in hell. Not after how they forced him to exit. Because then it's like, wait a minute, what do you force him to resign for? I mean, sure, you could maybe tell me, hey, enough time has passed. Okay, I get that. I mean, we could say that's the case with Kareem Hunt, kind of. And that holds true for a lot of things. You could maybe hold a grudge against someone, and then, once enough time has passed, maybe you can let it go. But I don't think Gruden's going back, given how the Raiders made him resign. No way. No way. Mike McCarthy, refrain says, again, like... Does Mike McCarthy want a head coaching job after the Raiders? Because, again, I'm just trying to be real. I'm not, talking shit or trying to make fun of the Raiders. No head coach survives 3 years except for John Gruden. And he was, again, we kind of addressed John Gruden, why he was let go. But I don't know, man. They're saying Gruden was the last good head coach. Yeah, Tim, that's absolutely correct. He had them going in the right path at one point. I know McCarthy's a good coach, Joshua. I agree. But here's the thing with the Raiders, because I know they made the playoffs twice, and I know Raiders fans, every year they look for a possible sign of hope. Well, remember when they got Devontae Adams, and that was the domino effect, forcing Tyreek Hill out of the AFC West? What, weren't the Raiders supposed to be the top dogs, along with the Broncos getting Russell Wilson? Look, it's just hard shell. Here's my thing with the Raiders. That is one of those, I'll believe it when I see it. It's kind of like the Kansas City Royals, and I hate to compare the Royals to the Raiders, but, I know there's been hope in years past for the Royals, but I'm not going to buy into anything with the Royals until they show me they can do it, like last year. I'll believe it when I see it with the Raiders. Until then, they ain't winning shit. And even if they do for one good season, can they extend it? Is it going to be sustainable? Because when they had a 12-win season in 2016, what did they do with it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's just the way I see it when you look at the Raiders and just kind of what they've gone through over the years with that franchise. Look, it's I think another good example would have been like KU football. There's a lot of work that needed to be done, and now they're fine. They're not, great, but they are moving in the right track now with their head coach. So I don't know. I just don't see Spags going there. That's the only team, as far as I know, that expressed interest in Spags. So it does appear that Spags, more than likely, will end up returning to Kansas City as the defensive coordinator for 2025. Let's see. A couple other notes here before we talk about Deron Cherry. Talk to Deron Cherry rather, and just see what other news and notes we'll bring up as the night goes on here. I do want to go back to today's media conference today. Patrick Mahomes was asked about Travis Kelce potentially retiring. And Mahomes gave a good answer. And listen, Mahomes, he's done a lot of interviews by now, so he kind of knows this. Why are you asking Patrick Mahomes about Travis Kelce's future? It'd be like, you being asked to speak for your friend who's in a new relationship and saying, hey, are they in love? Like, why are you speaking on that? That is not your place to speak on. So it just it's always a surprise to me when other players get asked about other people's personal deal. It just has never really made sense to me. But again, that's the media for you. Yeah, Deion Sanders, that'd be a funny one. That definitely would be. If the Raiders were not a circus before, what would they be with Deion? That I suppose is something we could explore in an alternate universe there, but one that we don't have to worry about right now. At least I don't appear. I don't believe so. I know there's this talk about Belichick. I guess Belichick's girlfriend had to diffuse the rumor that no, Belichick's not going. I don't know the whole rumor about Belichick supposedly not signing a contract with UNC. I don't buy that. If you didn't sign a contract, then how are you able to recruit? That would not make sense to me. That makes no sense, not at all. But I'll let those people figure it out. Let me just see if there were any other news and notes. I guess I'll show this real quickly here before we go to Deron Cherry and go over the injury report here. The good news is for the Chiefs, it is a very, very, very small injury report. This might be the smallest injury report of the season. Maybe week 1 or week 2 was the exception. This is the smallest it's been. So you have Mike Caliendo, Patrick Mahomes, Juwan Taylor, and Jalen Watson. They are all on the injury report. And I love how Ian Rappaport tried to make a big deal about Patrick Mahomes being on the injury report. He's been on the injury report since week 16. Okay, folks, let's relax a little bit. He's been on there for quite some time. Here's how it works. If you visit the trainer or anyone on the training staff, then your name will be on the injury report. That's just the way it works out. Juwan Taylor, same story with him. Mike Caliendo has a shoulder bruise. That's enough to put him on the injury report. Jalen Watson still recovering from that ankle injury that placed him on IR a while ago. So that's why he's on the injury report. Everyone's been a full participation. Everyone that's been on the 53-man roster since the postseason has started, they've all been full participants. That is not something you ever hear on January the 22nd. You just don't. The teams are not at full strength at this point. And I know Rashee Rice and McCall Harmon are not going to be coming back this year, but you still found a way to get D-Hop at the end of the day to essentially replace Rice. I know they're totally different receivers, but at the end of the day, that's what you had left. So good for the Chiefs on being able to do that, because if you're not able to get Rice back, at least you are able to bring in Hopkins, and we'll see what the Chiefs do in terms of trying to use him to advance to the Super Bowl. Hey guys, it's Farzin Vasugian here, and you don't need me to remind you, but I'm going to do it anyway. The AFC Championship game is on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. They will play at Arrowhead Stadium this Sunday, 5:30 Central Time. And if you guys want to attend the game, all you've got to do is go to SeatGeek.com. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs, whether it's the NFL, college basketball, whatever it may be. SeatGeek is where I go to. And if you're a new customer, you can use my promo code Farzine and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets for the AFC Championship game, and at checkout, if you're a new customer, put in my promo code Farzine and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. All right, welcome back in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you on this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. Appreciate you guys joining me. We are joined by a very special guest tonight. Joining me is Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Famer Deron Cherry, joining us back here on the podcast. Deron Cherry, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Welcome back in. How are you, sir? How's your 2025 been so far?
It's been great. Been enjoying it. Went on vacation, came back to this weather. That's not been great, but get to see Chiefs win, and hopefully we'll see another one and back to another Super Bowl this year.
Yes, definitely looking forward. One more win, and we get to go back to the Super Bowl. Are you going to be at the game this weekend?
Yes, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be in the elements with all the fans, man, cheering on this football team to another victory and another Super Bowl appearance. So, it's going to be cold. I was out there last week. It was cold.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be just as cold this week. So, but I tell you what, I enjoy being in the elements. That's the only way you can experience a true Chiefs game. And I'm looking forward to it.
How do you stay warm in these? I mean, listen, I get you guys are professional athletes and everything, but I don't care how professional you are. Like, you're still a human being dealing with the cold and all that stuff. You couldn't pay me to be out there. I love the Chiefs. I'd love to attend this game, but I just don't do cold weather games. I did it once, and once was enough for me. How do you guys, as players, stay warm in those situations?
Well, I tell you what, when you got as much on the line as this game, the weather doesn't matter. You're not even focused on the weather. You dress the way you need to dress to be comfortable, to be able to play in the game. But they've got jackets, they've got heaters on the sideline. You can stay as warm as you need to stay in between possessions, so you don't worry about it, because this is a big game. This is for all the marbles. This is to go to the Super Bowl. So weather is not going to be an issue with as far as the players go. Now, former players who are sitting in them stands and watching the game, that's a whole different story.
Those people are more important to run. I mean,
right.
Forget about them. I got a lot of questions for you. I definitely want to pick your brain on that game. We'll get into that later on, but I do want to start talking about your foundation and all the things you guys do. And what a great year it was for you guys in 2024. The celebrity tailgate, I had a chance to attend that. And by the way, the live auction, I've never attended a live auction before. I was just talking to your executive director, Aaron, about this. I have never been to one in person. It's a lot different than like in the movies or whatever. Man, in person, those auctioneers, I was impressed. That was a lot of fun. That really was.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The auctioneers are great. They give you, a real good sense of that they're passionate about raising money for your charity and getting people and working the room and getting folks to the opportunity to make sure that everybody has a chance to raise their card and bid on an item. But the money's going to great charities. We have 4 great charities that we support: Midwest Animal Rescue, Camp Quality, Score One for Health, and Answering the Call. And they're all great. And I think people understand that, what we're doing in the community means something to them as well. And they're a part of it. So I think, having that event and being able to really showcase, all the good things in Kansas City, but more importantly, some of these groups that really need help and support to, fulfill their mission and what they do. Some of it's with kids that have cancer. Some others are first responders that get injured in the line of duty that protect us each and every day. It's amazing, but we're happy to be able to do it. We're excited. We got another year coming up. We have another event in September, our golf tournament, and our auctions coming up in September, and we're excited. You can see the dates. Our
Yes.
tailgate party is the 27th, and then golf is 2 days, the 29th and 30th. So it's going to be a wonderful time. This will be, I think it's 32 years, far as in that we've done this event, and we've been sold out. Seems like every year, and this is something that I'm very proud of because it just shows you how much this community has embraced what we're doing over the years, and how we've supported the community in a big way. And that's something that's really important to me, to be able to give back and to help those out that need it the most.
Absolutely, and as you guys should be, you guys do a great job and doing this 3 decades strong. Yeah, I mean that's never an easy feat. So definitely a really good thing that people can get involved with. If people want to purchase tickets to the celebrity tailgate or the golf tournament, how can they do that?
Oh, they can go to our website, the DeronCherryFoundation.org, and there's links to everything. So if you want to buy tickets to the event, if you want to volunteer for the event, if you want to be a sponsor for the event, all that information is there at DeronCherryFoundation.org. And we're always looking for new blood, new people to come in and help support us. I mean, if you're not doing anything and you really want to make a contribution to this community, hey, come on. We have many avenues that you can help and support us. We have a promotions team that puts together these events, and I know they're looking for new folks to come in and help support what they do, because they go out each year and they're able to put this big, huge auction event on, which takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of time. They go out and solicit vendors and sponsors for auction items and things that are going to raise money. And the more we can get donated, the more money we can give to these charities. And that's what we're all about.
I do want to go back to that celebrity tailgate because I do remember you guys. You guys had a lot of great stuff. I mean, there were
Yeah.
jerseys and footballs and so many like events. I'll never forget. I think it was this like golf getaway.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the back and forth, for people wanting to get in on that, like that was so fun to watch. The one that I actually filmed this one while I was there, and it got so many reactions. Was the Taylor Swift signed guitar? I mean,
Yes.
there were a lot of jealous Swifties, Deron. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, that guitar went for a lot of money, and I believe it was one of our sponsors that we support, the university, Kansas City University. One of their executives wind up buying that guitar. I didn't realize he was a Swiftie, but I guess, hey, he might have bought it for his daughter. Who knows? I don't know,
Probably.
but yeah, but he did buy it, and it went for quite a bit of money, and
Yeah.
as well as the golf trip. Like we had guys bidding on that trip, and it's all expenses for him and five of his friends to fly in a private jet down to Sage Valley down in Aiken, South Carolina. Just an unbelievable golf course and a great experience. And so I think that thing wind up going for like $30,000 or so. So, it's amazing, and we're so thankful and grateful for people like that to come out and support us and support the foundation and what we're doing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And again, if you guys are interested, DeronCherryFoundation.org. The events for the celebrity tailgate, the date on that is September the 27th of 2025, later this year. And the celebrity golf tournament is on the 29th and the 30th, a 2-day event there. Deron, let's talk some football here. Obviously,
Hmm.
everyone's excited. This feels like the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl because these two teams, Andy Reid kind of joked about it earlier today, where he said that he feels like the Chiefs play the Bills all the time. And it's essentially true. The Bills usually get Kansas City's number in the regular season, and the Chiefs find a way to avenge a regular season loss against the Bills in the playoffs, but obviously every year is a different year. There are some people that believe, hey, look, as long as they have Chris Jones, Andy Reid, I saw Keyshawn Johnson say this, as long as the Chiefs still have that core unit, then there is no reason why the outcome will be different. But I think when you look at Buffalo, they certainly have a lot of motivation coming into this game. When you consider the fact that this is now turned into a big-time conference rivalry, what do you make of how these two teams, just a back and forth in all these games and getting ready to play once again?
Yeah, they're outstanding competitive teams. Both of them are. I mean, when you look at their history, it seems like they played each other every single year for the last 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And so these are two teams that know each other well. And yeah, they've got the best of us in the regular season, but we've turned that around in the postseason and really, gotten the best of them. But here's the one thing I look at this game. Buffalo's not afraid to come into Arrowhead Stadium and play. That's the one thing you see when you watch them play is that they have a lot of confidence. They're not afraid of the home field advantage that Arrowhead gives the Chiefs, and it seems like they play well. So it's going to be a good game. You got two great quarterbacks. I mean, the storylines are just amazing when you think about two great quarterbacks. You got defenses that play strong. They're very opportunistic. There's teams that like to create turnovers. They can sack the quarterback. They have some premier rushers on both sides. And it's one of those games where you have the two best teams in the National Football League, the two best teams that have been, pretty much the whole entire regular season. And they're gonna battle, and they're not gonna quit. They're not gonna give up, and it's gonna be one of those games that goes right down to the wire. I believe, and I would like to think that the fact that we are playing at home, we've had an extra day to prepare. And when you give Andy Reid extra time, he's going to come up with some things that can make the difference in the football game. But this Buffalo team, Farzan, is a little bit different this year. I think that they've got, you know, um, an edge about them because everybody was thinking that they weren't going to be any good this year. The fact that
Yeah.
they lost some key players, they got rid of Stephon Diggs, who was probably their best player on their football team besides Josh Allen, and it just seemed like it turned their whole attitudes around. It's like we're not relying on these superstar guys that have these big egos. And now we've gotten down to now we have a team that represents the character of our leader, and that's Josh Allen, a guy that never gives up, that fights and gives up. And they've kind of rallied around him. They don't have the superstar guys at key positions.
No.
They got quality guys, but they're not these superstar guys that everybody, talks about on some of the other teams. And I think that's brought that team closer together. So I think we're going to see a different team from a standpoint of how they perform with each other. And they're not looking at the excuses that they may have looked at in the past because of some of the other players that they've had on their football team.
To stick with Josh Allen there, I do think this game is going to be won and lost by, Josh Allen's scrambling abilities. If the Buffalo
Oh,
Bills
yeah.
can find a way to do it, then I think they're going to come away with the win and ultimately stop the Chiefs from three-peating, and they'll go on to the Super Bowl. But if the Chiefs can find a way to limit that and not allow him to go off, and of course everyone remembers the touchdown he had last time against the Chiefs, I think that could be the difference maker in this game here. And I think, just X's and O's here, I'm thinking of guys like Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, all the linebackers on the team who could be used as QB spies. And I know the Chiefs haven't done primarily well when it comes to not allowing quarterbacks to scramble. I do want to say one player that I did not really expect much from this year who's done really well lately is the safety Jaden Hicks. I don't know if he could play maybe some of that hybrid safety and keep an eye on Josh Allen because he does deliver those hard hits, and Josh Allen's going to welcome that anytime. How do the Chiefs prevent him from running to those open lanes and trying to move the chains?
That's the common denominator between this team and Patrick Mahomes in some respects, does the same thing, right? He can break away and make it tough for a defense. And this is what Josh Allen does. He makes it hard on the defense because that's the guy you don't account for in the running game, the quarterback, especially as big as he is and as powerful as he is. You get in those third and short yardage situations. Now, not only can they run the ball with the running back or throw it to a tight end, they can also run with the quarterback. And, I don't think there's any secret. They're gonna live and die by Josh Allen on Sunday. They're gonna run him. If they gotta run him 25 times, they'll run him 25 times if that means they're gonna make it to the Super Bowl. So I think he understands that, and I think he's gonna try to put that on his shoulders. I just wondering if he might be wanting to do too much. And but I think Coach Spags in the way he approaches these games, I wouldn't want any other defensive coordinator on my side than him because I think he can design schemes to take away what Buffalo actually wants to do. I mean, Baltimore had the perfect game plan last week. They ran the ball well, they made big plays, they kept Josh Allen on the sidelines, didn't give him many opportunities. And I thought Baltimore could have been running the ball a lot more, especially in the first half, that could have worn down that defense, and limited more opportunities to get Josh Allen on the field. And I would say that, if the Chiefs look at what Baltimore did last week, and from a defensive standpoint, they held him pretty tight and forced him to throw the ball, make throws down the field. And he definitely wasn't as accurate in the passing game as they were in the running game. And what you have to do is you have to get them into third and long situations.
I agree.
That's what's going to help the Chiefs. If they can win on first and second down and create longer situations where they have the opportunity to get the pass rush there and stay in their lanes and rally to him, you're going to have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 defenders going after him to tackle him because one or two guys, he's big and strong. He's going to power, forward and pick up first down. So you got to get a lot of people going to the ball, and I think that's how you neutralize him.
I think, yeah, you hit the hammer on the head there because, you get into those short yardage situations on third, even fourth down. I would not put it past Sean McDermott to be very aggressive in this one. They're going to QB sneak it. And as much as I hate to say it, that's not going to get stopped. It just hasn't really been the tush push, whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
It's just not going to get stopped. So that's good. I do agree with you. Forcing those third and longs is going to be crucial in this game here. I do want to switch to the offensive side because I still remember our conversation before the season and how excited we were about the offense with Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy. And it ended up being a completely different conversation. Isaiah Pacheco also got hurt. They bring in Kareem Hunt, who I do want to talk about a little later on. But, McCole Hardman's not going to come back. Rashee Rice, he's still on IR, and we'll stay on IR. But essentially, they flipped Rice for Hopkins. They have Hollywood Brown back, and there's not much game film on him. And by the way, Hopkins and Hollywood, they didn't have a single catch last week. They were only targeted 3 times. They're still fairly fresh. It's not like they got beat up or anything last week. My confidence level with the offense is pretty high. They haven't committed a turnover since they last played Buffalo. They're pretty smart with the football. And they've got a couple of wide receivers who, it's going to be their first AFC championship game. And 2 guys that are going to be fresh, ready to go, unless Buffalo leaves Travis Kelce wide open like they kind of did, like Houston did last week with Kelce. I would expect that those guys get far more involved in this game than they did last week.
Oh, no question. I think that this game plan for the offense will be entirely different. I think Buffalo realizes what Houston didn't realize last week, that if we're going to beat the Chiefs, we got to stop Travis Kelce. And then I think what that's going to do is open up Hollywood Brown, open up DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're going to have big games. I think Patrick is going to go to him. I think there's other guys that are going to open up because they're going to be so concerned about preventing Travis from getting what he's going to get. Because here's the key with Travis. When you look at him, he's lost a step, but he's still able to get into those creases and get into the middle of the field and sustain drives. he picks up first downs. And that's what hurts football teams because now you can sustain these drives, and that's demoralizing to a defense. So if they don't take him away, they're going to have a tough time because Patrick's going to go to them and they're going to probably play zone. And I think what you're going to see is, Hollywood Brown, you're going to see Worthy, you're going to see DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, at some point in time, I think Patrick is going to take the top off of it
Yeah.
and go deep. And that's going to loosen up that defense tremendously because I don't think that Buffalo has the quality in their secondary that they've had in past years. I think there's going to be some big opportunities for the Chiefs in this football game to make some big plays that we haven't seen all season just because there's going to be some receivers wide open.
When you look at Kareem Hunt, he really helped the Chiefs earlier on when they were dealing with all these injuries. He had 4 consecutive games of 20-plus carries, which is not something Andy Reid ever does. But they kind of needed him at the time because so many players were injured at the time. We haven't seen Kareem Hunt receive a big workload like that in quite some time. I'm thinking Andy Reid's probably saving that for a big game. I know Pacheco coming back played a factor in that, but I think, I'm just thinking of Pacheco. Number one, he's been good for you, especially in short yardage situations, and he finds a way to get some of those solid gains there for you. But I'm also, and I don't want to get too detailed into this because I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. It's in the past, it's over with, but he did miss out on a very special run. He doesn't have a Super Bowl under his belt. This guy is also playing in his first AFC championship game. So, he's going to run with a purpose, run with a lot of anger to try to make up for his past mistake and missing out on all these championships. This guy's going to be fighting real hard to do everything he can to help the Chiefs get back to another Super Bowl. I just feel like, that mental fortitude in a way is going to take over, and he's going to be hungry, Deron. That's my point with Kareem Hunt. I'm curious what you think about him going into this game.
I love Kareem Hunt. To me, when I look at this season and the things that have made this season special, he's probably been one of the guys that I think has really helped this football team more than anybody else. Because when he came in and took over that load, running the ball, pounding the ball up there, getting those tough yards, keeping drives alive, he really is the unsung hero of this team until Pacheco got back and is able to make a contribution. And I think Andy is using these guys in a masterful way. Pacheco's a different type of back. He brings the energy. He's able to, break some runs. But then Kareem comes in at the end of the game when you need him or in short yardage situations. I mean, he's able to pick up first downs. He's able to move the pile. He's a very physical runner. And in the fourth quarter, that's when you wear down defenses with a guy like that, a big back like that. And I think they've done a good job of using both of them when they need it in game situations that they're trying to make plays happen. So I think they're doing a good job. And yeah, Kareem is going to be hungry. There's no question about that. You're one game away from getting to some place that you have ultimately wanted to get to your entire career. You had an opportunity early in your career and you blew that opportunity. Now you have a second chance. I can't imagine what the emotions are that he's feeling, that he's one game away from getting to the Super Bowl with this football team that has that much experience, that's been there, have won it a number 3 times, and so I'm sure he will be amped up and ready to go. There's no question about that. And I think Andy will use him in a way that's going to really put a lot of pressure on Buffalo's defense.
Deron, before you go, you got a score prediction for this one?
Oh man, Farjan, I don't know what the score is going to be. I think we're going to see a close game. I think it's going to be one of those games that, depending on what the weather conditions are, and it's supposed to be cold, no rain, no snow, I don't think. I'm looking at a game that's probably 21-24, 24-21, 27-24 Chiefs over the Bills. That's kind of what I'm thinking around there because I think they'll score, but the way our defense has played, throughout the end of this season, and they're getting Jalen Watson back, and
Yeah.
that's going to help. And I mean, they're just playing unbelievable. I mean, 8 sacks last week against a very, very good quarterback. And my only concern with this team is they've got to pay attention to the running game, and make sure they limit gains. And if they do make mistakes, just don't give up the big play. Just get
Yeah.
them on the ground. But I see this football team defensively coming together again like they did last year. And I think they're in a lot better position health wise than they were in previous years. So I think the defense is going to show up, and I think they're going to make a statement in this game because nobody's giving them an opportunity. Josh Allen is you know probably going to be the MVP potentially through the league, and so I think it's going to be a good football game, but I still think the Chiefs will win.
Yeah, there were a lot of guys who didn't play last time. It was Pacheco, Hollywood, Omenihu. You mentioned Watson, Butker. All of those guys were on IR. And look, the Bills had some players that were not available for that game either the last time they played. So this is going to be a much different football game. So I'm excited to see how that all goes down. Deron, one last time, I'd like to give you an opportunity to promote the Deron Cherry Foundation and also the events, the Celebrity Tailgate on the 27th of September and the golf tournament on September the 29th and the 30th. For those who may have joined the live stream a little late, how can they get tickets to these events and also donate and contribute to the Deron Cherry Foundation?
Sure. If they go far as into our website, DeronCherryFoundation.org, there'll be links to everything that's on there for this event. If you want to be a sponsor, if you want to volunteer, if you want to serve in any capacity, we have opportunities for everybody, and we're looking for new people to come on and that want to give back to the community and want to support what we're doing, our mission. We're more than happy to have you, and we'll appreciate your service. This community has been very good to me, and I've always believed in giving back and wanting this to be, wanting to live in a place where I could contribute to having a better community. And I think we've done that through this foundation over the years. This will be our 32nd year for our golf tournament and tailgate event, and we're excited about it. So come support us, join us however you can. You can make a donation. If you want to volunteer, we're more than happy to have you.
Deron, thank you so much for your time. Once again, DeronCherryFoundation.org. Enjoy the game. Stay warm.
I will.
And,
I will.
We'll hopefully see you win. You take care of yourself, Deron. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's Farzin Vasugian here, and you don't need me to remind you, but I'm going to do it anyway. The AFC Championship game is on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. They will play at Arrowhead Stadium this Sunday, 5:30 Central Time. And if you guys want to attend the game, all you've got to do is go to SeatGeek.com. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs, whether it's the NFL, college basketball, whatever it may be. SeatGeek is where I go to. And if you're a new customer, you can use my promo code Farzin and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets for the AFC Championship game, and at checkout, if you're a new customer, put in my promo code Farzin and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. All right, our big thanks to Deron Cherry for joining us here on the Chief Zone podcast. Covered a lot of ground here, and of course, giving us his insight, his perspective, especially the cold stuff, man. I suppose he's right though. Once you kick that ball off and once you're on the gridiron, I don't think anyone gives a damn about the cold. But good to hear all of Deron's commentary there, especially about Kareem Hunt and also the defense. Just being able to contain Josh Allen, that's going to be key number 100%. So excited to see what the Chiefs are going to do to try to limit him and stop him in all of that. So big thanks to Deron Cherry. And by the way, the celebrity tailgate that he's got going on, once again, I'll say the date for you guys. It is September the 27th. And then the golf tournament, the celebrity golf tournament, is the 2-day event, 29th and the 30th. I'm telling you right now, that I mean, maybe if you're busy during the week and you're unable to attend the golf event, you got to go to the celebrity tailgate. I'm telling you now, you got to go to it. It's a lot of fun. You get to rub elbows with a lot of Chiefs fans, and some Chiefs alums are there, Chiefs alumni. It is a really fun event. And the auction, I'm telling you, I had never been to a live auction before. And when you hear them all talking like fast, like this, which I cannot do, it's actually a lot of it's entertaining. I did not think it was going to be as entertaining. I was dead wrong. It is a lot of fun to watch. It really is. So that was a really great event. Big props to Deron Cherry. And also, I mentioned their executive director, Aaron, and everyone else in that team that does a really great job of putting all of that together. So I am definitely looking forward to attending that one again in the future. So if you guys got a chance, check it out. It's a lot of fun. As far as tomorrow goes, tomorrow we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast at 8 o'clock Central Time. Less than 24 hours from now, 23 and a half hours from now, 8 p.m. Central Time. That is when we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast. It'll be the last podcast of the week. I will break down the game between the Chiefs and the Bills. I'll give you my score prediction for that one and give you the keys that the Chiefs need in order to win that game. And then Friday, 6 p.m. Central Time, I will be doing the Red Friday live chat. So make sure you guys check that out. Also, I think I can go ahead and share this. At least I hope I'm allowed to. I can't say much, but if you guys live in Kansas City, or if you have a way of accessing local TV here in Kansas City, check out KCTV5, 10 a.m. Central Time. You're going to see a very familiar face on there. I think that's all I'm at liberty to say right now. So, yeah, 10 a.m. KCTV5. Turn it on, and you might see someone you guys have seen or heard of or listened to before. That's all I can really say. And then Sunday, by the way, pregame live chat will be at 10 a.m. Central Time. Different time than usual, so make sure you guys join us. 10 a.m. Central. That is when we will do the pregame live chat, and then the game starts at 5:30 Central Time. And of course, we'll go live as soon as the halftime period starts. It'll be a short halftime live stream, about 9 to 10 minutes. And then we'll do the post-game podcast live. We'll do the Chiefs Zone podcast live, hopefully recapping the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs advancing to the Super Bowls. The link will be available for all of you guys to call in. The video calls, just got to click it, turn on your audio, your video, put in your name, and we'll chat it up. So I'll look forward to talking to all of you during the post-game show once the game goes final. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all once again for downloading and listening to this episode and tuning in live to the Chiefs Zone podcast. A big thanks once again to Deron Cherry, Chiefs Hall of Famer, joining me here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. I'm out. I will see you all tomorrow night. Take care.